So, Wally, welcome to 13 Minutes Why Every Man Needs a Why. It is an honor and privilege to have my new friend, Wally Klatch. Wally, we met at my book launch about a month ago, and I can honestly say that I've never met anybody like you. I want to just frame this conversation by the mission of this podcast. I call it the 13 Minutes Mission. It's based on the statistic that in America, every 13 minutes, a man chooses to die by suicide. And I believe what my teacher and mentor, Viktor Frankl, said, he who has a why can bear almost any how. And so this is a podcast to help men discover their why, their meaning, their purpose, so that they can bear whatever how comes their way. Now, I'm going to ask a very pointed question. I don't usually do this because we live in a very sensitive world now and probably need to say trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. Viktor Frankl would use to ask his patients on the first visit, "So, Wally, tell me, why haven't you killed yourself?" Harsh question. He would ask it for a simple reason, because he only knew the person coming through the door had stayed alive, and there's always the choice to leave. So what's your why, Mr. or Mrs. Patient coming through the door? And we can build a life on that why. Now, I'm going to ask you the same question, Wally, but I don't think our listeners have ever heard a response like they're going to hear. So, Wally, why haven't you killed yourself?
Okay, I'm going to be completely blunt. I'm alive today because of the war in Iran. I had planned to kill myself, but my family lives in Israel, and my ex-wife said that the kids are already in stress, and it's not a good moment for me to kill myself. And that's where I got. And since then, the question you're asking, why don't I kill myself now? It's really, the why has shown up. It's shown up for about 3 years now, more and more. And as I'm more and more, even since the war in Iran broke out, and then I've continued going, I'm getting responses. I talk. I feel because I'm in this situation, I want to talk about it because other people in this situation also. And every time I talk about it, I get a response back. I feel like I'm bringing something to the world by saying things that other people may feel, but don't talk about it.
So to give our listeners some context, right? Because you're obviously a man who loves life, who's lived life very fully. So why would a man like you be contemplating suicide?
Because I have dementia. And what's happened is dementia, I was diagnosed towards the end of 2022, and it was a very hard hit. And what's happened, without going into any detail, it's all come to a balance. I call it the living dying duet. When living and dying dance a duet, what music will you play? That's one of the phrases I go by. And so it's been balanced. And sometimes it gets thrown off balance, the living dying duet and what music I'm playing. So since that, a new realization came up, and the balance shifted, and I'm right back to speaking as much as I can, and writing as much as I can, and talking to people as much as I can, because that's what I feel like I have to bring to the world.
So this living dying, is that what you said? Duet?
Living dying duet, yes.
It's a beautiful and painful imagery. So because of your dementia, the dying duet is on the rise, and you have a choice to make before you cross the threshold where you can no longer make that decision for yourself?
That's a really exact question. That's right. The whole thing is shifting. My dementia means my condition is going down. It never stays the same over the course of time. And yes, as that balance is shifting, it's changing. My world is changing pretty continually. And sometimes I have different ways of measuring things that are going wrong because of the dementia. And so after I didn't end my life back at the beginning of the Iran war, the shift I'm living. It's like even when I got the dementia diagnosis, at first it was all black, and then I realized I'm still alive. That was the most. It was a real enlightenment. I'm dying, but I'm living also. That's where I started figuring out it's a balance between the two of them. It doesn't have to go one way or the other. I'm aware of the presence of both of them, very much so, and I feel like that's adding to my life.
Well, I know I'm grateful that you didn't take your life whenever it was you were planning on it. I'm sure I speak on behalf of a lot of people, just being around you. There's so much life, there's so much joy, there's so much teaching, wisdom that's coming forth. And it's obviously, I don't even have words for how painful it is, the thought that you will be making that choice here at some point relatively soon. I'm trying to process all of it, as I'm sure, you are, and the people around you are. There's not really a question. It's just sort of, I'm like overloaded right now with mixed emotions.
No, I hear what you're saying so much, because I'm going to end my life. The problem, there's a lot of problems with dementia. One thing about dementia is, I'll talk only about myself. I wouldn't talk about, I have to kill myself while I'm still able to, because as soon as I cross a certain line, like my memory, if I don't if I wake up one morning and forget that I plan to kill myself, then I'm in real trouble, because then I'm going to go down the dementia path, which is, from my perspective, a disaster. So I'm not killing myself out of depression or I'm killing myself in order not to get to the point of dementia. But I wonder, you know what? That's my plan, but it keeps changing. So I'm as curious as anybody what's going to happen. And I don't think of it as death. Because I've done this whole thing where dying has become more important, more a part of me, and living less. Okay, it's going to be more of the same, whatever this dying thing is. It's like, okay, I'm going to find out. So I fear getting here. You're causing me to think quite a lot. I'm more scared of being in dementia than I am of dying. It can be a.
So what is that? I don't know how I'm going to get through this interview. I'm already like welling up with tears, and there's so much, and I feel like I get one shot at this conversation. So I'm going to try and do my best here. But what's that threshold that, you cross and you can't make the choice? What is that demarcation? When do you know that that's the time to do it?
When I go to meetings of people like myself in my condition, that's always the first question. How do you know when to do it? Where is the line? And what happened was, at the beginning, a couple of years ago, I said, well, when I get to the black line, I'll know it. But I've realized, because I'm going through this, it's all grays. So what gray am I in, and when is the gray to go? And unfortunately, a lot of the answer to the question is how scared I am. I don't remember things at all well, but it's all stuff that it doesn't matter very much. I can usually write things down, but I'm starting to forget things that are putting me near. If I forget life things, what am I doing today? Where's the grocery store? I don't know what. That's a different level. So that's like I'm paying attention physically. This hand, my left hand, is almost unusable because it shakes so much. My right hand, it's not shaking. It wasn't shaking, and now it's starting to shake just the way my left hand. So so I know here that's like a downhill. So how do I know? When I make the decision, and I get how scared I am, how scared I am of getting into dementia.
So I'm really conflicted right now, and we can talk through this. Viktor Frankl has a couple fundamental principles. You're familiar with Viktor Frankl, Man's
Sure.
Search for Meaning. and in logotherapy. One of them is that we have a choice. That's all we have. A man has a choice in all circumstances. On the other hand, is life has meaning under all circumstances. He didn't qualify, dementia. And so I imagine, because I've studied him and I'm a logotherapist, he would say in the Holocaust there was meaning, even though it seemed meaningless. And I imagine he would say, though I don't know if he formally addressed it, in dementia there's meaning. And I'm trying to hold these two things. I'm sure you have held these for a hell of a long time. Can you help me and our listeners kind of hold the tension of those two?
I can say about the second part, I feel like, why am I alive over the longer period? Without the last couple months since the start of the war, I'm alive because of dementia. I feel that completely. That's my mission. That's I have it, and I am still, I feel like what I can bring to the world is to talk about it. That's exactly how I feel. So dementia, and every time I talk with a group or speak with somebody about it, I feel like I'm absolutely, that's what's literally keeping me alive and that's crazy. Dementia is enough to make you crazy, as I say. But it's actually dementia that's giving me my real meaning.
So there's meaning in dementia. So wouldn't then, therefore, if you play it out, there continues to be meaning? It's just changes, but why wouldn't there be meaning in a month from now, even if you're not on a podcast? Because I run men's groups called men's peer groups. And one of the things we never do is we never tell another man what to do. It's his life. And all the more so when you're facing your mortality. But my experience share is being around you is inspiring. And it makes me want to face whatever comes next, like my friend Wally. So why wouldn't that be true a month from now, even if you're no longer able to navigate the world?
It's been true every month from now up to now, even from the beginning. I knew the day was going to come. As you asked before, the line, when I cross that line, I'm not capable anymore. I'm non-functional. I'm not capable of taking care of myself. I'm not capable of ending my own life, maybe even remembering that I want to. It's what you just said is the way it has been absolutely up to now. That's been my meaning. And thank goodness I've had plenty of opportunities to talk. There are opportunities, and people want to hear about the kind of stuff because people don't hear about dementia and stuff like that. So up to now, exactly what you just said has been exactly what's happened. I've felt I can talk and bring my meaning to life and keep doing it. But there is this point with dementia where, and it's not a clear line. You can't take your blood pressure and say, oh, I've reached this, so that has to be the end. But as I said, the thing I'm most scared of is going into dementia and not being able to do anything literally of my own and not able to end my life. And also at that point, I won't be able to do what my mission is. I'll be non-functional. I won't be able to do talking with people or writing or all the stuff that is my mission. So that line is, it's almost like when I'm on a downhill slope, and on that line, it's a straight drop.
So in the spirit of chavruta, of this kind of dialectic back and forth in the Jewish tradition, for our listeners, you lived in Israel for 30 years, so we can go down that whole path later on. But in the spirit of challenging, lovingly challenging, there's a quote that says, circumstances don't make a man, they reveal him. And I would argue that I'm witnessing a man who's been revealed, and the man that I'm sitting across from is joyful and inspiring and courageous. Wouldn't that be true a month from now or 2 months from now, even if you're no longer choosing? I mean, I would just want to be around you all the time, whether or not we could converse. And I just feel like you're such a source of inspiration. I don't know what I'm doing here. I kind of feel like I'm holding on to something that I don't want to let go of, and we just met.
I appreciate your comments, and they're very moving for me. And I'm delighted we met while I'm still able to have this conversation, and as we had our conversations before. No, I'm saying no. I won't be Wally anymore. I won't be able to think, express, bring anything to the world. I see dementia. Literally, I volunteered in places where people with dementia are, so I saw it. That if it, God forbid, if it was some illness where it didn't affect my thinking or my emotions, what you're saying is be true. But that's what dementia does.
I love it. I respect it so much. Men's peer groups, we have a mantra. We say hard things and we hear hard things. We don't always have to agree. We just have to be able to have the courage to say it and have to have the courage to hear it. And this is like the ultimate example of that, right? I lovingly disagree, and I respect you so much for your defiant stand, as Viktor Frankl would say.
I'd be curious to hear what you say, but I think you see what you just said was you're willing to listen to somebody, even if you don't agree. And I find that's terribly lacking. Most things, somebody expresses something, the other guy responds, reacts, answers. No, but you're sitting here listening. You just said you don't agree. I am curious, what would you suggest for somebody exactly, or how would you see it, or something like that?
As far as, your end of somebody's end of life?
That's right.
I wouldn't presume to, know what it's like to walk in your shoes or anybody's shoes. I'm only sharing theory and by definition because I've never been there. And so the theory, and who knows, maybe I will feel differently when I'm facing something down the road. But my theory is being pushed to the limits right now because I do believe, for me, that life has meaning under all circumstances. And I sat with a man once who had ALS. And, when I was a rabbi, I sat with him for his final days. And we were working on his mission, his mantra, to take with him underneath the skin encapsulated tomb that he was going into while his mind was working. And what was he going to do under there for the remaining time? And we talked about prayer. We talked about, all kinds of things. And I thought that felt very meaningful to me, but I can't say I would do that. I don't know. And I can't say I would face dementia any differently or the same as you. I don't know.
Talk for another moment about, he felt with ALS, for heaven's sakes, he would be able, even if he's not able to move, he would be able to.
He believed that there's meaning in all circumstances and that it wasn't his to decide why God would, create such a scenario like Frankl in the Holocaust. His, wife was murdered. Why? I don't know why, but, teacher of mine, Edith Eger, who was a Holocaust survivor, said, victims say, why me? And survivors say, what now? And I hear you're saying, what now? What do I do now? And this man said, what do I do now? And his answer was, I go under and I commune with God and I experience whatever I'm supposed to experience for as long as I'm supposed to experience. And I say that, Wally, not as any reference to you.
I'm hearing what you're saying and trying to say, okay, how can I? And I would love to listen to what you're saying, but I am reacting because dementia, it's not, you know what? I always say it's easier for the guy with dementia. It's harder for the caregivers, the family. Dementia destroys. I see it all the time. Somebody with dementia, the wife quits her job and stays home to take care of her husband. In a couple of years, they are literally out on the street. It destroys. And that's, you know what? I don't have enough guts to do what that guy does.
And
I'm not saying that with any shame.
and I don't even know if that's true either, but I do know that you're worth fighting for. So that's why I'm sitting over here. I'm going to call it, as we say in the Talmud, teku, which means, right, it's sort of like you can't win this argument because it's a zero-sum game. But bottom line is you're worth fighting for. So I'm going to just, I keep seeing myself holding on to your leg. And that's not how a man deserves to be.
Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I've discovered since this process started, there's all kinds of words that don't exist in the English language.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually invented, I have a whole page full of vocabulary of words. And one of the words that I invented, which is appropriate to where I'm at now, I call it epitaphing. There's an epitaph. Epitaphing makes a verb out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and epitaph means when my brother is dead, he died. He was a gardener. And in order to remember him, I don't just remember when I'm walking along and I see a pretty flower or a nice tree, I just stroke it. So I'm doing something to keep him alive. Here, I'm going to start crying because I cry also. And you know what? Instead of worrying about the me physically, I'm going to say right now it took several weeks, what I bring to the world. And I'm going to say that, and how you can keep me alive and how I will stay alive, and I know it, is knowing somewhere, wherever, sometime you'll follow up on it. So that I'm going to be cremated. I'm not even going to have a tombstone, but it's my epitaphing is to feel the situation I'm in and to bring my energies to make the situation richer for everybody it touches.
Mm.
So somebody's going to be epitaphing me, they'll remember that in whatever way they remember it. And they'll go out and do it in whatever the way they do it, as often or not as often. That's how I'm going to stay alive. Mm-hmm. And that's, I wish, I don't know why we remember. I don't want somebody to remember remember with your heart. My energies. I want my energies to be. And when somebody else continues my energies, I'm as alive as I can possibly be.
So there's a saying, a person dies two deaths, once when their body dies and once when their story dies, their name dies. And we can't do anything about somebody's body. We all return to the earth. But the story, we can become guardians of the story. And, I call it carrying the fire, right? It comes actually from Proverbs, Ner Hashem Nishmat Adam, that the light, Ner Hashem, the light of God, Nishmat Adam, is the soul of a man. And the mystics, the Kabbalists talk about human beings are like a candle, and the candle is wax and it burns down. But the flame that sits on top, that's the essence. That's the neshama. That's the spirit of Wally. And
even when the wax is going down, the flame is.
But you can pass the flame from candle to candle, and it's
beautiful.
And so that's carrying the fire. And I'm committing right here, and I know a lot of our listeners are going to commit to carrying your fire.
Wow. Yeah. I can't even breathe. That's it. So I don't need to stay around. I'll just quickly say, this is influenced beforehand. Before I even was diagnosed, I have a website called It's a Resonating World. I was already interested in the energies. So I can really pick up completely on, that's what I believe. If I broadcast my energies out in the world, which is what you're helping me do right this single minute, and I owe you so much for it, okay, that's the world will have my energies in it and whatever it is. So that's what I try to do. That's what is keeping me alive, is the opportunity to get my energies out to them.
You said something to me when we met, that you actually appreciate what dementia has given you. I'm going to paraphrase it and then you'll take over, but somehow it allowed you to stop focusing your world up here and to start focusing it down here, pointing to my head, for those listening, down to my heart. Is that true?
Absolutely. I'll jump with it without.
Go.
I like myself better this way. And what happens is my brain doesn't work as much. My mind, mild cognitive impairment, MCI. And so I got the diagnosis and I got over that initial shock. And I started realizing that, wait a second, okay, my brain's working, my emotions are working more. And I like that more. And then I started realizing people were labeling me MCI, mild cognitive impairment, as if I'm impaired. And I wasn't feeling at all impaired. So I invented, next to MCI, mild cognitive impairment, I invented MEE, mild emotional enhancement, mild emotional enhancement. And that's how I think of myself. That's how I've, since just exactly what you're saying. So it's, I'm glad to be with mild emotional enhancement, and I walking over here today, I think 4 times or so, I had a chance just to complete strangers to, I had different things with each one, but yeah, that's mild emotional enhancement. Not that, I don't think too much. I let, and I cry. I don't call it crying. I call it tears, but not crying, because it's not sadness or anything. I'm much more emotional about it. So exactly what you're saying. So yeah, I'm in a surrealistic world completely. And I've been there since the very beginning. I like myself with dementia better than, I was a management consultant, my career, make everything connect neatly and like that. And no, maybe it was the right thing for me all the years, but now I'm feel much more what I want to be given this.
So Wally pre-dementia, right, wasn't in touch with his feelings and wasn't tearing as freely. Tell us about that Wally.
Pretty dry, and I don't want to label it like that. A different person, and I can almost feel the balance. My balance of my brain was much stronger for whatever reasons. And I'm not big on, that was the way it was. Mm-hmm. And I loved what you said before. What were the 2 words? What next or something like that.
What now?
What now? Yeah. Okay. That what now means that's where I'm at, and go ahead. So I accept that's what it was. And but it was very much a different balance between the mind and the emotions. And by the way, I don't call it my heart, I call it my guts. It's not the heart the way we usually, so I like to use a different word so it doesn't get caught in the same.
And it isn't to look back at our lives to pick it apart nearly as much as I do believe it's important for men to hearing this to realize that who we are is in there and that never changes, but the outward form, the way we're presenting, the mask, the personality, right? That's all crowd facing. But there's a piece of us, the neshama, the soul, that is untouched. And I imagine that that's true for people who've known you your entire life.
So let me ask you, it took frickin' dementia for me to, wait a second, I'm 72 years old and I lived my whole life. So my life today, if I didn't get dementia, would be exactly like it was for the 69 years up to then, because there was nothing to knock my balance off balance. And sometimes I think, wow, how stupid I am that I don't know. I guess I needed some hard hit. I didn't hear something that drew me away or something like that. I needed to get dementia to move off of that balance that I was in all the years. And it didn't happen until I got dementia.
Yeah, I don't know why that is, because everybody I know says some version of that. Not this is obviously next level version of it, but in Kabbalah, it's called the Shevirat HaKelim, the shattering of the vessels. And in the shattering, there's an opening, right? It's actually Leonard Cohen made it famous by saying the cracks are where the light gets in, right? And I don't know why. I can't work with men who haven't had a shattering, who haven't been, their ego hasn't been smashed apart, and their, their assumptions and their worldview, but there's something opening that a man like this, again, in an extreme scenario, I don't want it. I don't wish it for anybody, but I just know that the men that I walk beside who are willing to face it always say the same thing on the other side. The famous teacher, famous rabbi said, Menachem Mendel of Katz said, there's nothing more whole than a shattered heart. Right? And I feel like I'm just sitting in front of wholeness here.
And I bet even when you raise these topics to people, you're already breaking things, because people have never heard what you're talking to them about. So you're already starting the process of breaking who they were, because until people hear you talking about it, it's not even in their imagination. They wouldn't even, but now you're raising the topic of shattering pieces.
Yeah, but it's easy to raise a topic. It's harder to live it. And you're living it. To be able to, on camera, to say, I like myself better with dementia is a shattering that I know people are going to hear this and they're going to go, wait, what? Like, let me rewind that.
I do too. I promise. Okay. But there's different kinds of shattering. But I believe you shatter a lot for a lot of people, and not everybody would take dementia. I mean, it's not an easy thing after, especially that initial shock. So, okay, you and I are doing it in different ways, but I feel the shattering that you do, even by the way you ask questions, and I imagine it's very similar when you're working with all these guys that you deal with. It's this shattering, and the shattering. Okay, how can you even express to somebody the shattering, like the Kabbalah you just said? Shattering is a good thing. It's, you think something shattered. The Japanese, when they break a jug, oh gosh, the jug is gone. No, they have a word for it. I don't remember.
Kintsugi.
Tell us about it. You probably know a lot more about it.
Well, you just described it. It's just called kintsugi, where they repaste it back together with gold dust. So it's more valuable, right?
So you know what we need? They have it, and it's a physical thing that they can see. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things I can't imagine. I need somebody to tell me about it. I need to see it in some form exactly like that. And so that's why the Japanese, so beautiful they do that. You can actually see. And then that takes you off. I've been calling it balance. But you're calling it the shattering, like the Kabbalah and Viktor Frankl also, from what you're saying, said something similar. But that's finding a way. Oh, wait a second. So you just said the word in Japanese. So you've just told us a word that doesn't exist in the English language. And that's what I keep finding is, if there's no word, if people talk about mindfulness all the time, and there's no word feelingfulness, then people aren't even going to relate to feelingfulness. So I use feelingfulness. I do .coms on a lot of stuff I do. So there's feelingfulness.com where I talk about that. But there's no word. There was no word for it, and people didn't relate to it. People always relate to mindfulness. So exactly what you're talking about, to me, that now that I've been shattered to whatever degree I am, I say, wait, there is something, there's something to see between the broken pieces. You can see things that you could never see if the pieces had stayed together. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, shatterings, the Big Bang was a shattering, and a birth is a shattering. Actually, in ancient Hebrew, it was called a mashber. And the mashber were like the birthstones that a woman would stand upon. And that's where she gave birth, but it's the same word, Shevirat, breaking, shattering, and the womb is shattering, and it seems like a death probably to the child coming into the world, and it's being born, and that's what I'm feeling in your presence, and what we're talking about is, your shattering it's a death, and it's also a rebirth, and there's a transition process, and I feel so privileged to be talking to somebody in the birth canal. Right.
Okay.
In the process of moving from one reality to another reality.
Well, I'd love to sit here and have shut up the whole time, because I'd love to hear more and more. Well, I have your book, but to hear you talking about it is beautiful. because it's all alive. You're bringing it from all these sources and you're expressing it so beautifully.
And all of that just kind of disappears to the feelingfulness of what you're offering us right now, really. I mean, again, theories are great and we need them. They're frameworks. The language is a framework, but the lived experience, like this is such a gift to people probably who are going to be showing it to their loved ones who have dementia, or are going to be showing it to people who are going through other, shatterings. Well, there's plenty of shatterings out there. And so I just think it's so invaluable of what we, particularly you, are offering our listeners right now.
Appreciate you saying that. For me right now, I'm going to go back to your earlier question about dying. That makes it, I believe this anyway, but knowing that dying is, I can see it coming now. It used to be far away, then it got closer, and I keep feeling the difference. And yeah, dying for me, to be honest, I hope people can understand it to some degree. But this dying thing is brings it very close, very close. Makes it much even more real to relate to what you just said. Oh. Even though I accept it, there's some of the old, this whole process has made it more real. But okay, given what you just said, somebody who's in dementia, maybe at an earlier stage, yeah, you know what? With a different understanding, oh, now I'm starting to feel these things. Now I have an opportunity to feel these things.
It makes so much sense. I just wouldn't have thought about it, and I probably wouldn't have had the chutzpah to say it because I'm not in it. But to hear you, A, name it, and B, have the courage to say it is, I don't know, it's a paradigm shift. So thank you for that. What are your beliefs and feelings about the afterlife?
I believe the energies stay, and it's a resonating world. So the afterlife isn't me, another version of me, I don't know, with an angel with wings or something like that. I believe in energies. And that's why I want to bring as many good energies to the world. And okay, probably the farthest I've gone on the afterlife is after I'm cremated, there's a set of olive trees just outside of Jerusalem. And I used to live there in this little village.
What's the village called?
Beit Zayit. Beit Zayit is just at the bottom of the hill when you come out of Jerusalem, going to Tel Aviv. I would run.
The House of Olives.
That's right, exactly. So every day when I did my run, I would always high five these olive trees. And I always thought, the day's going to come when I'm not going to be the person high five. I want my ashes spread under those olive trees, and then I'll be absorbed into the olive trees. And I'm going to one day be the olive tree, and somebody's going to come along and high five me or stand under me for a few minutes or something like that. It's a resonating world. The world is energies that flow. So that's why I'm going to have my ashes spread under those olive trees, because I like the idea of being part of an olive tree and have somebody come. I'll be on the other side of the equation. But that's just that example. But that's what I've used to kind of, quantify how I see the afterlife. I don't see me as a person. The rules all change. It's more of the living, dying duet. It's just going to be different music, as I say.
Whatever law of physics it is, energy is not created or destroyed. It changes forms, right?
There you go.
Is it conscious in your estimation? Is it, if I talk to Wally, is there a reciprocation? Are we in communion and connection at that point? Can I talk to you? Can I hear from you? Or, the other side?
It's energies. Yeah, you can feel energies.
Yeah.
It's not in the same terms we use, like talking, hearing, touching, but it's happening. It's happening energies. Yeah. Because we're energies right now, in whatever format we are, and we're interrelating. And after we do what we call death, our energies are still here. I don't want to say without any doubt, because that's what I believe, without any doubt.
Yeah, that resonates. How do your kids feel about what you're going through and what you've chosen to do?
How do they feel about it? I'll just say at the very beginning, I decided, like when I first told them about dementia, that I'm going to end my own life. I felt I'm going to tell them. I'm not going to have a conversation about it. I didn't want them to be part of that decision, or have, you might think, well, it's nice to have a conversation. My feeling was that it'll make it better if I just decide and tell them. And I'm in touch with them quite a bit. They're all in Israel. I'm sitting here in the U.S. And that's part of my decision to stay here in Denver, because I felt, right or wrong, there is no right or wrong, that the distancing, given that I'm in the process of what I call disintegration, I don't want them to see my disintegration. I want to, on WhatsApp, you can be nice and all that stuff for a few minutes. But so I'm kind of trying to guide what they're feeling. But I know they do have crises. This is not easy stuff. And it's not easy for them. No.
So you're not seeing them. They're not coming here. Obviously,
they did come here.
They did.
Their mother, about I don't know, about a year ago or something. It was fabulous. They picked up, all of them together, and my ex-wife, Kol HaKavod, picked up, came here, and we had what I feel is exactly the departure, the separation. It's continued, but it was good that happened. That was a formal. They all came over here, and we were together, and we did things, and it was nice. And then they left with no expectation that we would. We didn't say, well, we'll get together, or I'll come to Israel, or something like that. So we had that separation, and that was. Now I've preserved that in the distance. I've felt, again, rightly or wrongly, that maintaining the distance would be a good way to flow into the next. Maybe I'm doing far more damage than good. I don't know.
There's no playbook for these things. It's your playbook.
Well, again, in the way I look, I tell them, and I really feel, I watch them, each one is building their own life, their own way. To me, that's almost the biggest joy I have. Not that I'm involved with it. I don't have to be there with them, or they're building their own lives, and I'm in touch with them in all different ways and stuff like that. But there's joy in watching each kid grow, and they're on 4 different paths. It's really interesting, and each path is really interesting, and I like to hear about the 4 of them, and they're each growing. Well, gosh, that's almost the biggest joy I have. Really, that's okay. Let them grow, develop, and be them for their lives.
Do you have grandchildren?
No. But that's part of the way they're living their lives. Pardon me for showing my age, but I'm 72. I don't think the world of 20 and 30-year-olds today is anything like the world of 20 and 30-year-olds were back in the day. So as long as they're living the way they want to live, super. That's terrific stuff. And I feel like all 4 of them are. So where do they stand with this? They'll each, the way I feel, each one will absorb it into their own world, however they choose to. It's not a topic that comes up so often. We're in touch a lot about, the usual stuff. I have started doing the thing. I've started epitaphing with them. I did decide, I don't use the word epitaphing, but I'm starting to communicate voluntarily and things that I want to, energies that I want to transfer over to them, values like that. I have started doing that consciously.
I was going to ask you that. So what form does that take?
The way it's been up to now, it just started maybe less than a month ago. What it's been up to now is every other day, every other morning, I'll send, we're in a group, so I can send to a WhatsApp group something that's important to me.
Send it like written or video?
Whatever it is.
Got it.
For example, there's something I wrote about trees. I won't go into the whole story, but I like walking down the street and looking at the trees, not at the houses or anything. And it's an amazing experience. So, and I have a website for that also. So I told them about it. And then one of the kids, and I told them about that experience. And then one of the kids responded and said this about trees. And I wrote a little poem on that little .com site. And that's how I did it. And so I wrote them a WhatsApp, say, wow, I just expressed my feeling. Wow, I'm really enjoying, I've started walking down the streets and really paying attention to the trees, and I'm really enjoying it. And that would have been what I do, but one of the kids responded and said this and that and the other. So he and I had a bit of a conversation. But each of these things is also, like you said, sending a video that I've done, or something written, or photos. I think yesterday it was, I'm astonished. Down Colfax Avenue, if you look west on Colfax Avenue, you see the Rocky Mountains with the snow on it. And what I always see is there's the mountains, there's the snow, there's the clouds, and there's the sky. And I take pictures of them a lot. So I think it was yesterday morning, I said, I really am amazed every time at this view. You look down Colfax Avenue, which is not too beautiful really, but then you see this magical, by the time you get to the clouds in the sky, it's like a drawing. It's not even real anymore. So I got excited about that, and I wanted to, I feel what is of value to me? That's what I want to transmit. What do I like? And that's exactly what I want to do, is epitaphing, transfer, so they're aware. These are the things that I enjoy doing. So I always take pictures, so I sent 4 photographs. And I said, wow, I really enjoy walking down the middle of Colfax Avenue and looking at the mountains with the snow and the clouds in the sky. It wasn't very long. I didn't make a big deal out of it. But that's exactly, so now they know, okay, Dad, for whatever they want to do with it, that's something that I relate to very strongly.
It's a shame more people don't approach their death or their transition with this level of consciousness or intention. When I was a rabbi, I did 500 funerals, and I would say a good percentage of them, most of them, were just not conscientious. It's one of the last taboos in our society. Very successful people, right, who don't have end of life directives, plans, have not communicated. And then that's just sort of the logistics. But what about the feelingfulness side of it? How do you communicate that? In the Bible, there's lots of deathbed blessings, but now we have more modern ways to offer those. And I hear you're offering, transition bed blessings of feelingfulness. I'm getting all these new words to your children.
Yeah, but that's exactly right. And you don't have to wait till you're near your deathbed.
Right.
Now that I've discovered epitaphing, gosh, I'm not dying. I'll die whenever I die, but I started doing epitaphing because I like the idea. Because also I think, I don't know what your experience is, but, we don't really know what our, say, grandparents, what they were like. I don't know too much about my grandparents. And it's what you said that before. I forget the phrase you used, but like the flame.
Mm-hmm.
Flames.
Carrying the fire.
There you go. Exactly. So, gosh, I want to get that going. And I got whatever I got from my own parents, and I'm doing it. But let's make that conscious. Whatever that Japanese word is for the jar, let's say, okay, so here's what the person was, and they were broken in a certain way, and then they got fixed up in it. Let's tell those stories from generation to generation. I think those are big. That's because we don't think about what effect what we're doing has on the world. And I think everything we do affects the world because it's all energy.
And also how we die affects, those who come after us. I always say how else do we learn anything in life than our parents or the people ahead of us? If you want your kids to go to college, you should probably go to college. That's probably the number one statistic to get them to go to college.
Is that right?
Yeah. If you want them to not smoke, then don't smoke. Right? We emulate example, not, what we're told, but what we see. Well, again, I buried so many successful people in the world that were successful, but they didn't face their mortality. They didn't plan for it. They weren't consciously epitaphing their messages, their blessings, whatever it was to their children. How are we supposed to learn how to do that without those role models? And you're modeling for many people, myself included, by the way. I had an anti-role model. My father hung himself. That was the anti-epitaphing. There was nothing left other than a mess.
So there was nothing. The energies didn't, it was negative energies because, gosh,
it just cut it off. It's just an abrupt, and, sometimes somebody dies tragically. You don't have time to epitaph, but that's actually not true because you should be, like you said, you should be epitaphing long before anything could happen.
You sure can. And epitaphing doesn't have to be a big deal. It's not like you have to open yourself up and give a big speech or something like that. I'm a big believer in, that's like the phrase I use for myself, to feel the situations I'm in and use my energies to make them richer for people around. That means the tiniest thing. When you see the woman out there this morning, doing her flowers with the rocks. So I stopped and say, wow, those rocks, did you arrange them that way or did they just happen to be there? Just the tiniest little thing. You don't need to do grandiose things. And so exactly. So if people think of doing things as being big, I can only do something. I don't, any energy you put out in the world's different because of it. I think that's sometimes what stops people. Well, what difference does that make? No, it's all energies.
It's so true. When I had to write eulogies, sometimes I would get these sort of platitudes and these macro messages, and you could feel like that's an absence of relationship. There's not a lot of details. The best eulogies were the ones that were nuanced. My dad used to take me to the beach and we'd build sandcastles and we'd stomp on them, right? A very specific point in time. And that's what's carried on as memory, not some macro, he was a good guy, right? I mean, maybe he was, but that's an absence of something.
So what do we do about that? I guess what we do here, it's already happened. The fact that you and I are already sitting here talking about this, okay, we have two other people in the room with us, but to me, that's fantastic. the energies aren't staying in this room or something like that.
Viktor Frankl talks about, people say, what's the meaning of life? And he said, there's no meaning of life. There's meaning of your life. And it's made up in all the meaning moments, right? It's easy to look at the grand why. What's my why? But the meaning of the moment, and what he said, and I believe this, and you're embodying it right now, is there's a meaning that has just been revealed through our conversation and through what you're sharing that never could, would, or will be ever shared again. And the fact that you're willing to go into the suffering, into the challenging stuff, and to give it voice and to share your feelingfulness with the world means it is, and it is forever. And it's eternal, that meaning. And so I just think what a gift for you to be able to share with us right now.
We're all doing it. We're all doing it all the time, even without whatever the energies are. You have, unfortunately, that horrible, tragic thing that happened with your father and stuff like that. The energies were different. But no matter what it's not even conscious, or it can be, but it's all energies, and we're giving it, you are, because that's what you do by doing your work, and with Viktor Frankl, and framing things that way helps me get new perspectives on it. Just you being you. You're expressing energies, you're giving out energies that are affecting whatever it affects. And it's beautiful.
So as we start to wrap up, and I don't want to wrap up, I decided maybe 2 years ago at this point, I was going to shift my energies to work exclusively with helping men with this mission, to push back the clock on 13 minutes as we began this conversation by 1 minute. If a man would die only every 14 minutes, that means 2,888 men this year alone would choose to live.
Wow.
And we can't, world peace, I don't know. But can we push back the clock 1 minute? And those 2,888 men will choose to live this year. And I got that idea because I did a retreat, a journey a couple of years ago. And I was on a mission on this journey. I had one mission in mind, and that was to get clarity about my business, my work, my profession. And I was on plant medicine. And under plant medicine, I saw my father. I was totally black. I was out, but I saw my father, and he was standing above me. He was hanging from the rope that he killed himself on. And he said, your why is to help other men choose to live, right? That's your why. And when you do that, you take me down from this rafter. And that's my mission. But until I met you, I don't know. I somehow felt it's been incomplete. There's something in this energy that you're offering me that I'm going to spend probably maybe the rest of my life contemplating and working on. But I know you've given me such a gift in furthering my mission. And I guess, Wally, part of it is, you've shown me that choosing to die is different for different men. But the way my father did it, the way it was abrupt, the way he left his problems and all of this suffering on our doorstep was one extreme. But I watched the way you're doing it as another extreme of love and courage. And I don't know. There's such a gift that you're offering me, that you're offering our listeners, and I just don't have words for it. But I just want to say, from a feelingfulness place, God bless you. Thank you. And wow.
Yeah, I'm choked up. You've put things out here. Even the thought that what you just said, how can we move that clock back by 1 minute? I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't related to what you're talking about in those terms. Okay, let's not go for the big. What can we do to push that clock back 1 minute? So only every 14 minutes somebody comes. That's okay. Let's do it. Let's that gives us in 1,000 little ways. Let's do it. The fact that you expressed it like that, I find that amazing, to put something in a way that it can be, that I can relate to it. I don't know about everybody.
Thank you. I received that, and that's my mission, is to create the vessel, the container, the words, but to be able to embody it as you are and to live it, to me, is really the ultimate expression of it. And so, I guess we're a good combination, but
but you are there doing it, working with guys. You're making it happen. I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying, and I could get pretty excited about what you're saying, but you're doing it. And that's a big, big, big difference.
Well, I know that this energy that we've exchanged is now forever tied together and linked. And I believe it to be true with every listener out there. And whenever your physical reality changes form and your neshama, your soul energy, continues on, I know it will continue on, and very much in relationship with everybody you've touched today, not the least of which is me. I would ask you one thing. If you would do me a favor, it's a massive favor. I would ask men this when they were dying, if I had the privilege of sitting next to them. When you cross into the next world, will you take that beautiful, shining, godly energy and touch my father with it? Because I feel like it's time for him to receive what you have to offer.
My energies will know how to find him. I hear the energies know how to do exactly that. That's different than us. Energies know how to do that. So my energies, When living and dying dance a duet, what music will you play? So your dad is living and dying in an energies, and I am. And we'll play music. We'll play the music that we can see. It'll be a very fulfilling music.
You have so much life and love to give in this world and the next, and I have no doubt that it will continue to inspire, as it's inspired me and our listeners. Wally, I love you, my friend.
You're amazing. Yes, love you in ways that I couldn't have even imagined. Thank you so much.
God bless you.